What's up, guys? Thank you so much for coming back to my YouTube channel. It's Michaela, for those of you who are new here, and today's topic is about being a slave, being in a trap, being in a bondage.
It's a trap! It's a trap!
Anyways, so it's being in a trap is being in bondage. We're all in one. So right now, this video, the point that I want to get across to you guys is the realization and the understanding and the ability to wake up in our lives to realize that we are a slave to at least one thing in our lives. So let's get out of it. And not to be afraid of the liberation that comes with the freedom of getting out of the bondage that we're in. So I will give you an example. I used to be in an extremely toxic relationship, okay? And that for me was my bondage. That's where I felt that I was in a trap. That's where I felt I was in slavery. And it takes a long time for people, sometimes never, but you know, I'm thankful that I was able to realize that I was in bondage in this relationship. So it took a long time to realize that I was in bondage in that relationship, and it took crazy amount of time to get out of that bondage. And I'm thankful for that as well, because the first step is realizing that you're in bondage. So whenever you can, take a second, take a piece of paper, take a pen, write down where in your life you feel like you're in bondage, you're in a trap, you're in slavery. It could be with a significant other, it could be with a friend, it could be with a family member, it could be in your work life, you know, in your friend life again. So just think about where in your life you feel like you're trapped. And it's really, really important to think about these things, because sometimes we don't know that we're trapped. We don't know that we're a slave to the instant gratification that things give us. We are a slave to something. And who wants to be in bondage? Well, funny enough, a lot of times we do, because I know that when I was in that toxic relationship, I didn't really want to get out of it. I was scared. I was scared of the freedom. I was scared of the liberation that came with getting out of that bondage. I was so scared, and I know that some of you can relate to that, especially with significant others and being in toxic relationships, about being scared of the freedom or what happens next when you break up with that person, or when you finally let go and you are able to climb out of whatever hole or bondage that you're in. And it's so tough. It's so tough, because what happens is that you realize, yeah, okay, I'm stuck. I am in a trap. Like,
it's a trap!
I have the courage, which, let's say after so long I had the courage to let go, get out of the bondage and say, okay, that's it, I'm done. I don't want to be in this anymore. I don't want to be in this anymore. So you make that one decision, however it comes. Maybe it's the straw that breaks the camel's back, whatever it is. But for me, it took a lot. Trust me, it took a lot. This is easier said than done. So I got out of it, and I got out of my bondage. But then what happens next is something really funny. Your brain, the nostalgia, starts playing a little trick on you, where it makes you actually miss being in bondage. It makes you miss the comfort of being in that slavery, in that trap. And it sounds crazy, but it's true. I got out of that bondage and that relationship, and I started to miss, however toxic it was, I started missing being there, being in that position that I was once so miserable in. Isn't that weird? So it's like, don't let the nostalgia, you know, affect you from moving on and moving forward. If you want to look back, take the lesson from whatever happened in the past and move forward. Don't take anything else. Don't let nostalgia play a bad part, you know, in your life, because sometimes I'll find myself, yeah, you know, I miss being with that person, or I miss talking to them and this and that. And it's like, you know, sometimes my brain will replay memories of when things were dandy and fun. But the reality of it is that, no, I'm better off with the liberation and the freedom. And I do feel better. I do, because I wouldn't be making this video if I didn't feel better about not being in this bondage.